And he's like, isn't this so great? We're playing the Super Bowl tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. He's like, we are so grateful to God for the journey. I'm like, yeah, we're so grateful. And he's like, win or lose after the game, we're going to kneel at the 50-yard line and we're going to say a prayer with the Steelers, the team we were playing. Yeah. And we're going to thank them for the season and the journey. And I was like, yeah, totally. Because like, I feel like this is going to go our way. There are so many things in athletics that your Christian faith can get tested, worked through, strengthened. Of every touchdown I've ever thrown in the NFL, every like high moment in my football career, there's nothing that felt like that moment for me. But here I was as a person who literally could get up there and be like, all right, we're going U personnel, red left, swap tight, close, Z right, sprint right, G, U corner, halfback, flat. And yet I'm the same person that's like, well, what's John 14:6? Like, I'm not really sure. Something about Jesus. Yeah. He said something important. Yeah. First of all, I think number one, being unashamed is the best thing. One of the other quarterbacks, I said to Trent Dilfer, I said, man, I am really glad that our teammate that I invited to Bible study didn't come today, because our chaplain's message would have been just so over his head, and he's never gonna reach that teammate with a message like that. That's what I said. Yeah. And Trent looked at me like with disgust and was like, it's not his job to reach that teammate. It's his job to train you so that you can reach that teammate. Do it to the best of your ability, as if you're doing it for the Lord and not for your coach or for the approval of like the people in the stands or watching on TV or how many likes do I get.
All right, welcome to the next episode of the Salty Christians. My name is Matt, and I'm here with
Matt Hasselbeck. Matt Munt, let's go.
Yeah, so this is exciting for me because I grew up in Seattle, a Hawks fan, and I've followed your career. So
you got the orange on for Ensworth. I appreciate it. Is that your Salty Christians hat? I like it.
I'm glad you recognize. But for this, I'm gonna have to throw that out. We'll put on the Hawks hat. So.
That looks good.
But yeah, so the goal of this.
I feel bad your hat's on the ground.
Yeah,
now. Let me pick this up for you.
But yeah, as I'm driving here, thinking about the mission and the hope of this conversation is to encourage other people to be salt and light. So it's called Salty Christians. And the one thing that I appreciated about your career was you weren't the in-your-face Christian. Like, I don't remember you, feel like you had to force your faith in a post-game interview after the touchdown. But the stories that I've heard in the podcast is you were salt and light in the locker room to your teammates.
I feel like my teammates would say that I was the in-your-face Christian.
Okay. Yeah.
a little obnoxious at times, but I don't know. There became a time in my faith journey where like I was so confident about my faith and what I was putting my trust in and who I was putting my trust in, that like earlier in my career, like if I had like come across like a good investment opportunity, I would have no problem running to my friend and being like, oh no, you need to invest in this. And so like when I became a lot more assured in my faith and more confident in what I believed in basically the truth of like who Jesus said he was and what he did on the cross and what he did 3 days later and what he did while he walked the earth after he resurrected, like all those things, then I had like really no problem at all to my teammates, like, yo,
have you heard?
You need to come to this. You need to learn about this. You need to get in. You need to try this. We're doing this devotional as a group. You should get in. We're having a Bible study. We should go. We're doing a couples thing. We got a retreat. There's this conference. Like, I don't think it was, it wasn't like, I wasn't going to apologize to that. Because I wouldn't apologize for the other thing either.
Yeah. When was that moment in your career, your football career, when you got bold?
You know what?
Because it wasn't college. I remember.
I just remember I remember all these different parts of my journey. And I think like sometimes boldness for me was I was afraid to be bold because I was afraid that everyone would be like, oh, well, you're a hypocrite. Like, oh, I saw you, lose your temper or talk trash about our coach or like whatever. Yeah. And so like, no, I think there was definitely a journey. There was a moment that really sticks out to me, like big time. But I know the moment was before this. But there was a moment where I was leaving a early morning Bible study, and I get in the elevator. It's on the second floor. I get in the elevator at the Seahawks facility, and we're taking the elevator from floor 2 to 1. So it's a very quick conversation. I get in the elevator, and I say to one of the other quarterbacks, I said to Trent Dilfer, I said, man, I am really glad that our teammate that I invited to Bible study didn't come today because our chaplain's message would have been just so over his head, and he's never going to reach that teammate with a message like that. That's what I said.
Yeah.
And Trent looked at me like with disgust and was like, it's not his job to reach that teammate.
Yeah.
It's his job to train you so that you can reach that teammate. And I think from that moment on, like, and I should have known that, but like, I just didn't click.
Yeah.
And when he said it to me, like piercing, hearing it from Trent, it was like, oh, like new assignment, like go make disciples, not go introduce everybody to the chaplain. And I think that was probably like a pivot point in many in a journey of when I was like, I think a lot different. In order to do that, I had to become I needed to become the kind of Christian that like knew the Bible well enough, knew the playbook well enough to share, to answer most questions. Some questions you can't answer, but I was good at that point in my life. If we would draft a young quarterback, I was pretty good at being like, he had a question, I got an answer. I wasn't going to be like, oh, I don't know, but the head coach, his office is on the second floor. Why don't you go ask him?
Yeah.
So that's one of many, I think, situations where I owned it and I knew it and I was working at it and trying to sort of like master the playbook as much as I could.
I love that because that relates to everybody watching this video, whether you're in the NFL locker room or just a Christian in everyday life. And when I hear stories of Christians who are being salt and light, because I think it's easy, especially in our Christian celebrity culture, to go, oh, you know what, Tim Tebow's got this, or my mega church pastor's got this. Like, no, he can't reach the people that you can reach.
Well, I think for me, like one thing that I hid behind was like, oh my gosh, like the Bible's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. How do you know it all? But here I was as a person who literally could get up there and be like, all right, we're going U personnel, red left, swap tight, close, Z right, sprint right, G, U corner, halfback, flat. And yet I'm the same person that's like, well, what's John 14:6? Like, I'm not really sure. Something about Jesus.
Yeah.
He said something important. Like you can't, all you're doing is like, this is important to me and this is less important to me. And at that point in my career, I'd probably been in the NFL like maybe 5 years. I'd had the Bible way longer than 5 years, and so I just think it became like a little bit of like, what are you dedicated to? In the same way, I would say, like, the weight room, I'd been lifting weights forever, had no muscles at that point, like wasn't as dedicated to that. But there are these word pictures, and that's one of the reasons I do love sports, is because I really do believe that there are so many things in athletics that your Christian faith can get tested, worked through, strengthened. You learn perseverance, relying on your training. Like, are you worried about this or that? Hey, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Just do what this coach says and just let him worry about all the rest. Same thing, like, like I blindly trust Waze. Blindly. Waze tells me to do this. Well, that makes no sense. I'm just going to do it. Like, but I don't do that in my faith journey all the time. That was for me as an athlete a little bit. Like, coach says do this. Like, well, what about, dude, just, let's mature. Let's grow. I'm grateful for these types of experiences because they've helped me grow in my journey.
Let's go walk on the field real quick.
On our grass field.
Not
a lot of grass fields, and playing here or coaching here in Nashville, Tennessee. One of the things I appreciate the most is these grass fields. It is a thing of beauty. You can sleep out here.
You kind of answered one of the questions I had about, once people know you're a Christian, then you're kind of wondering. I mean, it's kind of the same. If you put a bumper sticker on your car that you're a Christian, it's like, oh, if I drive bad. So what was the? I'm trying to figure out the way to say it, but like, was it weighing on your mind, like your actions? When you do actions, you're going, are they gonna?
I would say this, like in college, like, I always identified myself as a Christian, 100%. I think my biggest struggle or rub or like thing I didn't want to happen is I didn't want to be soft. And in my mind, I don't know why this is, but like, I grew up with like this image of Jesus as like, I don't know, Easter, a guy in a dress with long hair who loves flowers and pastel colors. And like, I don't know, it wasn't me. I didn't like that. You know what I mean? It was like this Hallmark Jesus kind of guy. And like, the more I studied about who Jesus really was, like, he wasn't that dude at all. Like, this was like an American version of like, he was a carpenter who hung out with fishermen, who like what? Like that's not, he it just was different, And so like the more you learn about him, it's like, yeah, that's like he was tough and hard. So like I think in football, sometimes there's these people that are like, they talk about their faith, but they're like not gritty on the football field. And like, I had a picture of that with my dad. My dad was that way, but I think as a boy and your dad, like, like, well, who else? You know what I mean? Like, even with my son, coaching my son, like I'll say something to him and he's like, I don't know. And someone else says it and he's like, oh, yes, sir. It's like, I just said the same thing. But it wasn't until I think I got to the Green Bay Packers that I saw a group of, and certainly a couple guys that were devout Christians, bold about their faith, but didn't need to say a word, but didn't need to. But they were incredible on the football field. And the guy that comes to mind for me is Reggie White. Like Reggie White would dominate you on the football field, like knock you over, like sick move, pass rush, toughest guy, and then help you up. And it was like, oh, you can be all in on both. So I don't know. I think for me early on, there was just like, how do you be like really tough and yet like this amazing Christian as a competitor? And I think I viewed a lot of things wrong. I think I viewed competition wrong. I think I looked at it like I'm competing with you and all the other guys in my position group. And that's like really the worst way to do it. Yeah. It really needs to be, I'm competing with myself to be the best version of myself. Not better than everybody else, but better than I was yesterday. And also just like making the most of my God-given ability. And that's how you're a true competitor. And I think it just frees you up to be the best teammate ever. Yeah. Cheer on these guys. I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for me. You're rooting for me. We're rooting for us. And at the same time, like kind of this Colossians 3:23, everything you do, do it to the best of your ability as if you're doing it for the Lord and not for your coach or for the approval of like the people in the stands or watching on TV or how many likes do I get or whatever. It's not even about that. And
or even getting a Super Bowl. The pinnacle of sports.
No doubt. And that is something like, it's hard because you set goals and stuff. And like that's, and even in my career, like, we lost the Super Bowl in 2006. And it's like, it's very disappointing because I don't feel like we needed to lose it. I really feel like we should have.
It was stolen.
No, I did. But there's great lessons for me even in that. But even that season and really every season, like we would come out of the tunnel. And there's a lot of pressure being like an NFL quarterback, and I'm sure a lot of other jobs, a lot of pressure. And we'd come in the tunnel. It's almost like the movie Gladiator, I would say. Like you're in this dark, dingy tunnel. It's not nice. It's concrete, and you can just sort of hear like the thousands and thousands of people outside. You can hear the stadium. Like you can kind of feel it. You kind of smell it, and you're like in that kind of dungeon. And there's nothing nice about those tunnels. And you're there and just like this nervous energy. Yeah. And we as quarterbacks or sometimes quarterbacks and centers or sometimes quarterbacks and wide receivers, we would come together and we would say a prayer. And our prayer was like not always the same, but like the theme was similar. It was kind of like, God, we are so grateful for this opportunity. Like we are so grateful. Like this is a dream come true. Please protect us, protect the other team. I pray that you would slow things down for us. I pray that you would give us a peace that could only come from you. I thank you that we were able to prepare as hard as we could prepare this week. But I pray today that we would go out and we would play for an audience of one. We would play for your approval, not for the approval of like on TV or family or the coaches or play. Like I just kind of this Colossians 3:23, like we're playing for you. And the scoreboard will be the scoreboard, we're just going to one play at a time, do everything right. The score takes care of itself. And that was sort of the prayer. And I think for me, the wins and losses, like they're a result of, sort of that one play at a time, doing the best you can each and every play. And, win or lose, like it's a little bit out of your control. Yeah. But you can control what depends on you. And I don't know, it's freeing, win or lose. You sort of win either way because you just, again, you maximize the God-given ability that you had and you worked hard at it. And, he's got a plan.
Yeah. Speak to the person who's watching now going, oh, sure, yeah, you were a quarterback and you started winning. And so it's easier to share your faith, but maybe they're in a job where they don't think it'll be accepted. Talk about the moments, because I'm sure there was moments too where it was not advantageous for you to wear your faith on your sleeve. And I don't want to call it persecution, because I think there's real persecution in the world, but like there's definitely moments where I'm sure it was maybe a little tough.
You know, I can just speak for like what it's like in the locker room from my perspective. Like, I don't think my most effective times, or even just my teammates, I don't think our most effective times were when we were necessarily talking. It's very hard, if not impossible, to kind of fake who you are in a locker room setting. Like, you're in there all the time with guys, like, you know your teammates, you know who treats others well, you know who's selfish, unselfish, you know who's giving it everything they have. I think the moments of sort of sharing your faith most effectively are when things are terrible for you.
The true colors come out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, okay, like let's see, Christian, how are you going to handle this situation? And I don't know, like whether it's an injury or it's a tragedy, or like even on a smaller scale, like when I first was in Seattle, like I got benched, and I got benched for somebody else. Like, the whole locker room is saying, like, all right, like, how's he going to be? Like, is he going to be supportive to the guy that took his job? Or is he going to be trash talking him? Is he going to be complaining about the coach? Or is he going to be literally this guy's biggest supporter? And, like, that's the moment where you're like, where I think people are like, yeah, maybe there is something different about that guy, because I've been benched and I could never do it like that. Even, like, I mentioned Trent Dilfer earlier. We came in together. He had just won the Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens, and I had just been named the starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, but I'd thrown like 29 passes in my life. And he comes in first day, and he's just like, hey, I'm praying for you, man. I want you to be really successful. And I was like, what? No, you're not. Like, what are you talking about? Dude, you were a free agent. You looked around the league, and you were like, who's the worst quarterback in the NFL that I could probably take his job after like 3 or 4 games? This guy, never even heard of him. And that's why you're here. Like, that's what was in my head. And he was like, I'm praying for you to have a great season. I was just like, we got a bug.
We got a bug.
Let's go.
Nashville in the summer.
Good protein.
So he's praying for you, but you're not.
So he says that to me, and like, I don't know. I just, like, in my mind, I had never really met anybody who competed like that. I didn't trust it. And, there's no way for me to really know if this guy's legit, or if he's just wearing, like, FCA and AIA t-shirts every day. Like, is he real? I'd never met anybody like that. I would just say, in a really serious way, Trent walked through something with his family that's unimaginable. His 5-year-old son came up with a heart condition, and in 40 days he was no longer living on this earth. And it was incredible for me to see how legit his faith was, and his wife's faith, and really the family, and how they were, I think their faith like grew. Their faith in God grew through this situation. And I was a brand new parent at the time, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I trust God with everything. Like, do I really trust him with my family the way that the Dilfers are trusting God with their family? And it was eye-opening for me, and it was definitely like, you want to talk about a witness in a locker room or in the workplace. It wasn't about it wasn't about his talk. It was more about like the daily walk when things were really, really bad. And so, I think it's moments like that where we have an opportunity to like let your light shine even when the times are the darkest. And
well, and I'm glad you shared that story, because, I'll brag on you, because I've heard the story on ESPN and different podcasts, how during that time you were also a light and salt in his life. And, just being, it's year 2, you're with the Seahawks. You think you're going to be the starting quarterback. But you're competing. Like, he's your competitor to try and get the starting job.
Big time. I mean, right? And he was my competitor in a way that, like, I remember my first start in Seattle, home game. Like, literally the whole stadium is chanting, like, Dilfer, Dilfer. And I wanted to just hate this guy. Like, I just wanted to, like, have a bulletin board of, like, a dartboard of, like, like, just throw it. And the problem was, and again, like, this is sort of God working through all things, like, my wife and his wife and our other quarterback, Brock Heward, so his wife, Molly Heward, cast Dilfer, Sarah Hasselbeck, like, they all became very good friends. And it's really hard to like not get along with a guy when your wife is really good friends with his wife and your kids are friends. But like,
but in his darkest moment, you're reaching out to him, and you're. I mean, it's simple.
Well,
as
here's the funny thing.
You're playing video games with him when you should be studying the playbook.
I get uncomfortable. I get uncomfortable when he gives me credit for being such a good friend to him in a dark time, because we were all hurting. And when someone loses somebody that they love, you know, I just don't know if there's any words.
Yeah.
And I had no words. And so I knew that at that time, Trent was really struggling with sleeping. And so we were in training camp, and, you know, like the training camp thing at the time back in the day, that it was just playing video games and in downtime, and we just played video games. And there were some nights where we did not go to sleep. Wow. And because he couldn't sleep. And so it was like, fine, if you're not going to sleep, I'm not going to sleep. And it was just like that kind of a mindset. So like, I don't know that it was something super spiritual. It was just like I created space for him to talk about his son, Trevin, who had passed away. I gave him space to talk about it if he wanted to talk about it. But other than that, it was just about being there and being near him. And I think it was healing for me as well. Yeah. And the crazy thing is about football, I had one of the best years of my career that year, like with like no sleep, you know, not like it wasn't. I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know why. But he was an incredible friend to all of us. And again, I think if I was allowed to say one thing about the whole situation, the spiritual health of our team that year was incredible, because we saw how one family walked through this incredible, unimaginable tragedy in such a God-honoring way. It was like goosebumps thinking about like
that changes the atmosphere of the locker room.
100%.
And it'll change the people in your sphere of influence. You know, people watching when we walk through, and I mean, people are that's the test time. Like, do you really believe what you've been preaching to me?
And I would say, you know, like grief is, you know, everyone grieves differently, and so like I don't think I have any answers. But one of the things that I thought was really incredible that our position coach Jim Zorn did. Also another really solid Christian mentor, leader. Jim would start every quarterback meeting. You know, in quarterback meetings, you have a lot of information in a very short amount of time to get them in. He would start every meeting and he would say, okay, Trent, if you want, you know, give us a quick story about Trevin. Yeah. And it was incredible. And there's one that just sticks out to me. And again, I'm a parent at the time. And Trent talks about how they bought this really, really expensive kitchen table. And it's like the most expensive thing that they owned. And Trevin, being a boy, and, you know, like he's a boy, and, you know, carves like something into the table, like his name or something. And he got in trouble and spanked and yelled. It was like a moment for them. And then it was like, you know, soon after, like, we're all crying because, you know, he's saying, like, that's one of my most prized things that I have today. Like, this is like this great thing. And I'm just in my head going through parenting in my own situation when I've been so angry at one of my kids. And it's just, I don't know, or like when God's angry with us, or like just all the different things. It's just like, and this was like just Jim Zorn created space for Trent to like share. And it was, I don't know, it was healing.
Well, I think it also makes it more than a game. You know, when you have someone close to you hurting, it's like, it puts everything in perspective. Like, I go to a men's Bible study, or not Bible study, but prayer group. And when you just hear the prayers going around, it puts things in perspective. Like, wow, you're going through that. Like, now all of a sudden my problem, you know, doesn't seem so big, you know, like, not that God doesn't care about it, but I think that's why God wants us to be in community, because we can lift each other up, but it also, it gives us perspective on life. Yeah. So.
Well, and also just preparedness. I feel like a little bit convicted. Like, I'm sitting there like, okay, if I ever had to lead my family through something like this, how would I, what would I lean on? What's my foundation? Yeah. Or if I ever had to run a quarterback room, you know, as players, it's funny, like you think like, oh, I could be the coach, you know, and like in preseason games.
Think through the scenarios.
Well, in preseason games, Mike Holmgren would do this fun thing where like, you know, because as a quarterback, sometimes like, oh, I don't like this play call. And Mike Holmgren in like the second half of a preseason game, he'd be like, all right, you're calling the plays. And you get up there and it's like, whoa, it's a little different here. You know, like I'm not the backseat driver. I'm all of a sudden, but in the same way, when you see someone take a leadership role spiritually, it's easy for us to sit in a congregation and be like, oh, I'm not sure if I like that message. Or like, oh yeah, why don't you go give a message?
Yeah.
Or like, oh, I don't know about this like chaplain's Bible study. Like, okay, why don't you lead the Bible study? Just like, whoa, so I think there is something to like in these moments where you sit back and you say, okay, if I was in that leadership role, what would my process be? Would I be prepared? Would I be critical of myself? But no, it's again, it's part of the journey. I'm grateful, very, very grateful to God for placing so many really impressive quality men in my life that way. But I also know that it didn't just happen. I also was humble enough to seek it out, become friends with people way older than me, also invest in guys that are younger than me, which the plot twist on that is that those guys helped me probably more than I ever helped them. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it's getting hot out here in the Nashville heat, so let's go find a little shade.
Okay.
But real quick, so one of my episodes recently was an 18-year-old who started a company called Salt and Light.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a
Salt and Light with an
LYT electrolyte. So it's like a healthy Gatorade. So I figured,
I will just tell you, heat illness is such a thing. Heat stroke, heat illness, and so this is very important, especially in the South. And I'm a cramper. So.
Okay, well, give it a try. It's all healthy stuff. It's legit. I love it.
Appreciate that, Salt and Light. I like the name too.
We got some shade. So I being a sports fan, I'll see on social media when, after the game when the athlete gives credit to God, give the shout out to God. And that's awesome. And, all the different Christian Instagram accounts start sharing it and it's cool. But I sometimes wrestle with like going, well, is that bringing people to Christ? I think it's more of an encouragement to us as believers and going, oh, okay, my favorite player loves Jesus. But, you're sharing your story about Trent and just, in the locker room, like, I don't want us to just be social media warriors sharing our faith or even athletes doing it, but like, where has God called us to do it in relationship? So maybe just talk to that. Like,
well, I'll just say this year in particular, like first of all, I think number one, being unashamed is the best thing. Being unashamed. Yeah. And growing up where I grew up, mostly in Boston, Massachusetts, like I think like if I could do anything better, I think I'd be more unashamed. But I hear what you're saying. There's an eye roll to a lot of people. We're like, I just want to thank Jesus. Without him, none of this is possible. There's an eye roll. I will say this though, like I thought what I saw at Ohio State this year and on college campuses was incredible. Yeah. I mean, goosebumps. Like I just thought it was so authentic, and I think that's probably the word that I would cling to. It was so real, and what they were doing on their campus and how. I don't know, no one's perfect. Like even the Travion Henderson situation where, I think he got a 15-yard penalty in a big game. He's the outspoken Christian. Like, yeah, you're human. Yeah. But it was just real. And him and G. Scott Jr. and some of the guys, like I just thought it was so great. And I thought that their boldness, and my daughter has this Sports Spectrum What's Up podcast where she interviews college athletes on the intersection of sports and faith, and there are some really, really impressive college kids right now who are professing their faith in such an authentic way. It's not, they're not doing it for like out of guilt or out of like, they're not. It's just literally authentic. Like do you pray? Do you pray when you're pitching on the mound? Like in between every play. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, okay, God, it's just, and I think that's just so real. There's one interview she did with it was Kirk Cousins had done an interview, and then she interviewed Cade Klubnik, the quarterback at Clemson. And it was just so amazing to hear Cade, never after a touchdown, after an interception, talk about this interview that he had heard about Kirk Cousins sharing his faith. And I just think when you're sharing in a way that's building up and edifying people or helping them, because it's authentic, it's real. So on the Ohio State thing, I think I saw it in college basketball. I saw it in pro football. You saw guys like Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. They were, instead of I want to thank the man upstairs, they were I want to thank Jesus. It's a little different. And even Nick Sirianni. So I just think we're all in a different spot, but the authenticity of it. And for me, I remember before my Super Bowl, Jim Zorn, our quarterback coach, right after chapel one time, he had a quarterback meeting, and he was smiling. He's like, "Isn't this so great? We're playing the Super Bowl tomorrow." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's awesome." He's like, "We are so grateful to God for the journey." I'm like, "Yeah, we're so grateful." And he's like, win or lose after the game, we're going to kneel at the 50-yard line, and we're going to say a prayer with the Steelers, the team we were playing, and we're going to thank them for the season and the journey. And I was like, yeah, totally, because I feel like this is going to go our way.
The confetti's going to be
let's do it. Yeah, whatever. And I remember losing the game and having this moment of why am I doing this? Do I want to pray right now? Like, no, it's like the last thing I want to do. I'm so angry. I'm so mad. But like, I'm going to be obedient because like in prayer time or in a commitment to God, I said, no, I'm going to do this win or lose, win or lose. And I remember, and there's a picture that I see sometimes, I'm on my knee, and Sean Alexander and DJ Hackett and some of my teammates, we're sitting there on our knee waiting to pray with the other team. They don't want to pray either right now. They're celebrating with their family. Their confetti's rolling down, and we're sitting there in obedience, in a very, very tough time to be obedient. And we're saying, no, you know what? Even when I don't want to, I'm going to do this. And, so like people at home might sit there and be like, oh, you're praying. Like, you should have just played better. Like, I get it. But like for me in that moment, it was like, no, I'm going to be true to my word and true to a commitment I made. And, I don't know. So it's not necessarily for anybody else in that situation. Yeah. It's more for me. But I would just love to say publicly, I just think it's awesome with this next generation, how they have been leading. I think it's really cool.
Leading and, like you said, unashamed.
Yeah, in an authentic way. And I think that's the number one thing. Because I've also had teammates that talk the talk and then everyone in the locker room's like rolling their eyes. I've invited guys to do a devotional and they've literally said to me like, is that Christian in the devotional? Because if he is, I don't want to be in it. And it's like, and that's where I have a real issue. Like I have
hypocrisy. Nobody likes hypocrisy.
Nobody. And and listen, I'm cool. Like I'm like, hey, listen, if you don't want to be a part of it, hey, I'm not gonna bow up on you. It's not, however, if you profess to be like all in, then like we're going to have an issue. I'll bleed over that, you know? And I would expect you to do the same with me.
And you're called to. You're called to call out a brother.
And listen, no one's perfect. Like I'm sure teammates, I'm maybe the guy they do, I don't want to do it if he's doing it. I might be that guy. Yeah. So, anyway,
that's why salty, I guess, has two meanings. You can be the salty for Jesus and the salty not so
I
much for
like
Jesus.
the salt and light. This guy. That's my guy.
Good one. Yeah,
a good one.
So post NFL, what are the different? I call it spheres of influences. We all have different spheres of influences where we get to be salt and light. So post NFL, I mean, that's still going to carry with you. You run into a Seahawks fan or all the different teams you played for. They're going to be like, oh, it's Matthew Hasselbeck, and then you have an opportunity just to treat them well. But now, different spheres of influence, where are you?
I mean, I'll just say quickly, like, transition out of the NFL was really, really hard for me. I don't think I did it great, and I, was preparing. I'm like, oh, I'm going to have a job. I'm going to, not have a job for half a day. I'm going to plug in all the things. Like, it was different, and I don't know how to explain it other than it was a lot of change quick. You miss the things that you take for granted in the locker room. And everyone says, oh, you're going to miss the camaraderie. I had camaraderie. I went to ESPN, had awesome teammates. I was with Trent Dilfer and Steve Young and, Randy Moss and Charles Woodson and Chris Berman and Sam Ponder and Adam Schefter and, the people behind the camera that you don't even see that are also an awesome part of your team. And, it was awesome. I loved it. I did not miss that. I had that. But, you also, I think I took for granted coaches. I had an army of people that sat up at night, thinking about studying, praying, how can I help him get better? What are three things we can work on in the weight room as a quarterback, as a leader, athletic trainer, hey, what injuries does he have that we need to work on? What injuries does he not even have yet that are a popular injury around the league, prehab. I did more high ankle sprain, rehab, prehab. I've never had a high ankle sprain. I've never taped my ankles. Played 18 years in the NFL, never taped my ankles. I taped my ankles one time, but didn't like it. I miss that. So now you're out of that team environment and you're not the franchise quarterback. You're just some dad, It's different. I think also being around more at home was a transition. I came in there trying to be the signal caller. My wife's like, dude, we're good. Yeah. I've got this. I got this. What you take the trash out, bro? Yeah.
I'm the coach here.
A little bit. You know what I mean? Just I think even just talking to my kids, I would talk to a guy in the huddle. I'd be like, get in the huddle. Daddy, what?
Musicians have this same issue where they go on tour, you're in front of thousands and then you come back home and they call it re-entry. And how it's really hard to re-enter. And, there's counselors around Nashville area who help these musicians who are out traveling and then have to come back.
So there's 5 to 6 weeks after the off season before training camp starts which would be my re-entry into the family.
Yeah.
And then right after the season, there's almost 2 months where it's the exact same thing. And it wasn't until I sort of got coached up on it and like was even aware of it that I kind of I got coached. I mean, really, that's what it is. Like you kind of step into it. And I do think that's one of the other blessings of being in the NFL. Like there was like everything came to you. Like church we play on Sunday, so church comes to you. There's a chapel service, there's a Bible study, there's a couple study, like, it's just like all right there.
Yeah.
And like you gotta really, you would actually have to work to avoid it. Versus like, all right, we have soccer practice and lacrosse and baseball, and are we gonna go to church today? And like, I think for me, one of the things that I did well was like, no, we're gonna make this a priority. We're gonna make this a commitment, and if we couldn't, we're not just gonna skip it. Like we're gonna honor it and respect it. Which was a challenge. There new challenges. Like it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're still doing a little bit with ESPN, right?
So I got laid off. So I got laid off 3 years ago now from ESPN, and it was kind of like really disappointing when it happened.
Yeah.
Like I was really bummed. Like the people I worked with, I liked the show I was on, but it happened.
Yeah.
And it really was the biggest blessing in disguise. Like they did for me what I never would have had the courage to do. Quit a dream job that really wasn't that hard. I was just talking about football. It was like not hard at all.
Yeah.
The hardest thing was not having a hot take all the time. That was not, I had to sometimes drum up a hot take, but no, but it was a dream job and I loved it and I didn't want to leave. And, they laid me off and I had a 2-year non-compete where I couldn't work in media. And so I decided to volunteer as a coach at my high school, coaching my son, coaching with my dad.
Oh, cool.
And the head coach that's there was coaching there when I was in high school. It's just really cool.
That's a special moment.
And, my son was committed to play college lacrosse and he wanted to play football, but no one was recruiting him. And his sophomore year, he was the third string quarterback on a 1-win team. And, like I had a chance to kind of pour into him and do that. I got great quality time with my dad. I got great quality time with my son. And we won the state championship his senior year. He was Gatorade Player of the Year. He ends up getting all kinds of football scholarship offers. He's now a quarterback at UCLA. And it just never would have happened. Yeah. I never would have had the courage to choose family over career.
Yeah.
And God just was like, yep, no,
you're
out.
Yeah.
And here I am years later, no more non-compete, and I'm coaching high school football. Last year, coached with my dad, who was the tight ends coach. My brother is the head coach. I'm the offensive coordinator. My nephew is the quarterback. My other nephew is one of the backup quarterbacks. Like it's been so rewarding, and it's been great being around them, but it's also been rewarding for me having so much purpose and pouring into these kids. And I would say the hidden thing I didn't realize is sort of like locking arms and pouring into and learning from these other coaches and teachers who are in the fight every day and just like having their back. And there's strength in numbers and raising kids and raising the next generation. And it's not about football. Like it's like we have cool plays and it's fun and football and we had a great year. We went undefeated last year in the regular season, but it's not even about football, And so it's a method. Like if we do well with the football, the kids are more likely to listen to us on all the other things. But it was great. So I do a little bit of media now. I'm on the Colin Cowherd show on Mondays, remote from Nashville. And it's fun because I do love football, and that comes super easy to me. But this is a hard job coaching, and I love it. And we'll see.
Hard and rewarding, but usually the hard things are rewarding.
Yeah, and I would just even say, like, I don't think I've got a rear view mirror on this yet, but like 3 months ago, my dad died suddenly. Super healthy guy, besides a bad knee replacement, like that, a bad knee that needed replacing. But he just died suddenly, and I don't know, like having all this extra time on the field with my dad is incredible. It's a gift that I didn't know I needed, and I'm just grateful. And so like I feel like I should have this like deep sorrow about, my dad died suddenly and all this stuff, but like I think more than anything, I'm just so grateful for like the amount who my dad was. the example he set, how much fun he was, and how incredible it was coaching with him.
Yeah.
You know, and he had a way about him. He was coaching us. Like I thought we think like my brother's the head coach, I'm the offensive coordinator, and you're like helping with the tight ends. You know, and it's just like, nah, he was really like coaching us still.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just so grateful, and I know we'll be together again someday. But I don't know. Even in the bad stuff, I think there's just some God's working it for good.
And like you said, it's not quite in the rearview mirror enough, but there's going to be new things that you realize as you go further down this path.
And like, I think sometimes in life you say, like, you look back and you say, oh, that's a lesson that like I hadn't seen, like, but like some things just hit you like square in the face, and it's like, this is just God, you know. And I just remember even when my son won the state championship, the game was at Gillette Field. Like I grew up, my dad played tight end for the Patriots, you know, so here we are at Gillette Stadium, somewhere I never won a game, you know what I mean? You know, and as a player, but there's my dad, and there's this picture that we have that, you know, it's me hugging my son after at Gillette Stadium, hugging my son. Like I am so just so overjoyed. I never won a state championship, lost mine in high school, and I won it with him, or he won it, and we're hugging, and in the background you can see my dad. In the background of that you can see Gillette, and it's like this little like thing. And you know, even this year, my middle daughter Mallory, who plays lacrosse at Boston College, the Final Four was at Gillette this year. And you know, where my dad, you know, sort of like the team my dad played for mostly, and you know, she plays in that game like not even a minute. Like she doesn't even get in the game for like a minute. She gets in the game, touches the ball once, goes down, has this sick goal, like right basically near the end zone. And it was just like, I just felt like this 2 months after we lose my dad, and it's just like, it just felt like this like little God wink.
I was going to say, I remember reading online, you're talking about God winks, and so these are some of the God winks.
Someone made up this word. I think there was this guy.
Wasn't there a book? I think it was a book.
Probably a book, but I learned it from this guy named Phil Smart in Seattle. I think he was a car dealer, and we were co-chairs of a charity event, and I maybe spoke at like an Eagle Scout banquet, and I heard him speak, and I was just like, this is the most amazing man. Like, I need to be best friends with him. Meanwhile, he's like 90, and I was 20-something, 30-something. But it just was like, I need more of what you have in my life. Like, this is, and so like I feel like I never really used that word that much. But like now there's these little different things that I'm kind of like, it's almost humorous to me. Like, it, you know, like, I don't know, like there's certain things like, because it's me, like I think of like, this is funny, like there's a player that I know from the NFL that's maybe the most generous person I know. But it's funny because he was the stingiest person I knew before he like fully surrendered his life to God. And it's just like, we all smile, he smiles, it's just like, it's just God. Like it's hilarious that like you're the guy, you know. It's kind of like Paul being like the hero that he was. It was like, wait a sec, Paul?
I have a feeling there's more God winks if we would slow down too. You know, I mean, I think they're happening all the time, and it's just, I mean, it's the same like with I'm reading scripture. You could read a verse a million times, and it's the 1,000,001st time where it's like God just smacks you in the head and like, oh, that's how it applies to me right now. And so, all right, well, final question. I mean, unless other stuff comes up, but a question that I ask everybody, because it's the Salty Christians YouTube channel. This is a time just to share a story. It's a testimony. And sometimes people get a little weird, like they don't want to brag on themselves, but this is bragging on when God worked through you. When were you open and available to be used by God to be salt and light in any situation?
I mean, there was a really, really powerful moment when I went to a prison in Dallas. I think it was Dallas. And they were like, okay, you're going to talk. I was like, what the heck am I going to talk about? And, you know, I was sitting next to my wife, and she was just like, she said something to me, and she said something like, just talk to them. And it was like, I don't even know what, but it was like a moment in my life where it really felt like this wasn't for me. And it went amazing. It could not have gone better. And like literally, you could give me a year to prepare a perfect speech to go speak at a prison, and I could never come up with whatever that was. And it was like, I don't know, there's like a but God. but I think
we had to rely on him. You couldn't rely on your own preparation and perfectly crafting what you're going to say.
I mean, I would be nervous talking at lunch at the junior high school today. But I think like being here in Nashville, a memory, the core memory for me. So I was probably 36 years old. I'm the veteran quarterback, and we have a first-round pick, Jake Locker, and we have another really young player, maybe a second-year player. His name's Rusty Smith, and you know, I don't know, like they probably looked at me like, who's this old guy? And they were closer in age to my kids probably than they were to me. But we developed a really great friendship. And I had invited them to this Pro Athletes Outreach Christian conference with their pregnant wives. And we're there, and like we got there, and I had been in Seattle for 10 years, and I invited them, and they were my crew. And then we got there, and I saw all my Seahawks friends, and it was just like and I think we kind of like just like abandoned them, not on purpose. We were just so excited to see our Seahawks friends, and I wasn't really sure where they were in their faith journey exactly. Like wasn't sure. So anyway, my faith journey a little bit is like I ran from God with public baptism. You know, as a baby in the church we were growing up in, like my parents allegedly, I was baptized, no idea. It wasn't my decision. You know, it was, so me getting baptized would have just been a fulfillment of what my parents had hoped for me in my life. You know, putting God first, you know, putting on the jersey that says like, hey, this is my guy, Jesus. But I ran from it. And ran from it and ran from it and ran from it until I finally was obedient. And my baptism story is really awesome because it was everything that I was afraid of was like magnified, like way worse than I could have. Like I was like one of these people like, oh, I'll privately get baptized in the Jordan River with my family and 2 people I know. You know, like, but that's not what baptism really is. It's really like it's just a public declaration of like, you know. And so like I was the guy, I was like Jonah in the whale, like running. And so anyway, we're at this conference and they're preaching on baptism and they're going to do baptism.
And your heart's pounding?
And then I'm like, oh my gosh, Jake, Rusty, like, I don't know where these guys stand on like, I don't know, the delivery of the message was maybe a little bit like, I don't know, bold. And I was like, I wish I was near them or whatever. And so like they go over and like, anybody that wants to get baptized tonight, like you're welcome to. And I was like, so I see them and their wives, their pregnant wives. And I'm like, I think they're pregnant. And I'm walking over to them and I'm basically formulating my apology. Like, hey guys, no pressure. You know, like I know it's quick, you know, I don't know where you are with this. And they were like, hey, we got to talk to you. And I was like, okay, what's up? You know? And they're like, hey, our team chaplain's not here. We're going to get baptized. Would you get in the water with us and help us get baptized? And I mean, I can't even tell you, like, of every touchdown I've ever thrown in the NFL, every like high moment in my football career, there's nothing that felt like that moment for me, where it was like, this is just me being halfway, tiny bit obedient, and God just with his power, like just working through me, and like it just was for them and for him. And I'm just like this stupid, like least likely vessel, like the I don't know. It was so cool.
But it brings you to life when you're being used by God. Yeah.
It was even to this day. And so, you know, being back in Nashville, it's Rusty, ironically, is I think here this week. He and his family are missionaries in Africa right now, and they're back. So I'm excited to see them. And Jake and his wife are like incredibly on fire. And again, younger than me, I feel like I look up to those guys. So long story, but I just, it's honestly like I can't think of a more powerful moment in my whole career.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Again, the goal of this YouTube channel is to inspire people to go be salt and light. And so those stories, I know anytime I hear a story, it encourages me to go be salt and light. Because every single day, those God winks, every single day we have moments that God wants to use us. And so thank you for sharing.
Well, and if I talk too long, YouTube, the best thing is they can put me on 1.5 speed, you know?
Exactly.
Or 2 times. 2 times speed if you're a psycho.
That's true. I do. My wife listens to audiobooks like that. And I'm like, how do you do that?
She's smart. She's smart.
Yes, but it gives me anxiety. I can't.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, thanks, Matthew.
Thanks, Matt.
I hope this episode and this conversation with Matt inspires you to be salt and light. Consider sharing it with a friend or family member who might like this conversation. Obviously, if they're in sports, they're going to love it, but I think the things that Matt shared applies to all of us as Christians, and how do we weave our faith into everything that we do. If you love conversations, hearing how athletes are weaving their faith into sports and athletics, be sure to check out Matt's daughter's podcast. It's called the What's Up Podcast. I've got it linked below. If you want to support this YouTube channel, down below also you can learn more on the Patreon and support what I'm doing here on the Salty Christians YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you never miss a video. And as always, until next Saturday, stay salty and shine bright.